The Brethren of Chaos podcast.
Hello, welcome to the next episode of the Brethren of Chaos podcast. Episode 50 something.
Ooh, getting up there.
Not sure which exact.
That's cool though. Only cool podcasts don't remember what episode they're on.
Is that a good sign?
I have a disclaimer in my rider that says I'm only on podcasts that don't remember what number they're up to.
There we go.
That's what cool. Genuinely, I'd actually believe that.
Yeah, I like that.
We'll take that.
Yeah.
So who's that voice talking over there? Who is it, Charles?
It's me again.
Is it? Yeah.
No, I'm joking. No one else.
No one else is here.
I'm back again, but we've got a very special guest today.
The lead singer of Polker.
Yes.
Maverick rider of motorbikes.
Yeah,
An eclectic man. Like, you know?
Sam.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank
Yes.
you, Charlie. Thank
And
you, Steve, for having me on.
Sam, we've had you lined up, haven't we, for a while?
It's been a while, yeah. I've been in the waiting room
in the way
of the Brethren of Chaos podcast for
this waiting room.
a while.
It's a long waiting room.
It's been very
There's
cold.
like 50 people in that waiting room, aren't there now?
Well, you had a good laugh, all me and the people in the waiting room. Like, it was very cold. There were no refreshments.
There's no windows.
There's no windows. No. I don't know if it's been a day or 6 years. Like, I have no idea, but somewhere in between.
Sounds about right.
But I'm glad to be here now.
Yeah, now you're in the dungeon now.
Yeah, I'm here now. Actually, like, as I said, I like the spot. I think it's cool.
Nice and cozy.
It's intimate.
Intimate. That's
Everyone
it.
says that. It's lovely and intimate and cozy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It's,
nice.
And then,
it's
then we
another way of
start,
saying it's fucking freezing.
and then we start talking about the fucking weirdest shit going.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you want, though. That's what you want. That's what keeps the people listening.
Yeah, keep them drawn, keep them hooked in.
Yeah.
Well, so what have you been up to, Sam? Do you want to tell the listeners about your bike?
Oh, yeah.
That-
Yeah. We
think
need
that
to
is-
ride in on that one.
Ride in
No.
on that.
So, well, that was a good segue. Actually, I've just got a bike. I've just got a new bike.
A new one.
I didn't actually say this before, but I've actually the recipients of I've had 4 V5s come to the door this week. So I bought that bike,
Fucking
but
hell.
I got a bike a week before as a project, a Honda.
Yeah.
The Honda's V5 arrived, and they also had this Chinese bag of shit bike. No slanders in the Chinese, but this is in the period where they weren't making very good bikes. A bag of shit bike. The V5 for that came. Then the V5 for that came.
Yeah.
The AGS outside, the only one currently in one piece that still rides.
Yeah, rideable,
which is nice. And then I got a new job, and as you do when you get a new job, you treat yourself to something.
Of course.
Of course, it's maybe like a meal or a pair of shoes.
Yeah, some nice clothes.
And what is 3 bikes in a month is not enough. So I went to the 3-hour drive to Birmingham and bought another bike.
Oh, that was the one you were telling me, wasn't it?
So I bought an FZR 400, which is sprayed up in Cadbury's livery for the 90s.
That's cool.
Absolute turd. It does run, but it is
runs.
a turd. It does run, yeah. It sounds quite healthy actually, but it is a turd.
Have you rode it?
No, it's
No.
got the flattest of flat tyres on the front, and it's got one of those
Non-existent.
Do you remember when you used to go to Poundland? You could get those metal dust cap covers. Meckies,
Oh, yeah,
we used to
yeah.
call
Oh,
them.
yeah.
On the estate back in the day, you got to get Meckies, and you'd like go around everyone's cars and rob the
Yeah,
Meckies.
take them.
Yeah, rob the
You-
Beckies.
Bag full of them.
A bag full of Meckies. For your bike with 2 tyres on.
Yeah.
You put the 2 tyres on. But you needed all the Meckies just in case. Well,
Badge of
those
honour.
you're doing people a favour, because as I found out now, when you put a Meckie on a valve stem that's not kind of designed for it, or you buy the cheap ones from Poundland like everybody did,
Yeah.
they seize to the valve stem.
Fucking
So
hell.
you can't get the cover off to pump the tyre up. So I can't pump the front tyre up, and it means I can't get the tyre off.
I see.
So I
see,
have
yeah.
to
It's just done in.
Yeah, so I'll have to
You can't cut them. You can't. How do you cut it? You'll cut the valve though, wouldn't you?
You'd have to cut the valve and then
Put a new.
because the rubber is so perish because it's been sat so flat for so long. I'm gonna have to cut the tyre off as well.
Oh, I suppose if you get a new tyre, yeah.
But I only say well, hopefully get a new tyre, depending on budget allowing. The bike was quite expensive. Do you know what I mean? So it might just be it's a front tyre, so I could just wheelie everywhere.
Yeah, can you imagine?
All right, yeah. I
Get away with that.
If I keep the front end up, I should be all right. But The one that I only say I got 4 V5s not as a flex or anything, as a warning, because 2 days ago
This is a warning.
This is a broadcast warning. This is a warning because I got all them through, all these mistakes that I've made, which I probably shouldn't have bought, but it's too late now. And I got 2 letters through from the DVLA on the same day, which was nice. One for the V5 for my FZR, and another little brown letter. I thought, that's not big enough to be a letter for a V5. Opened it up. It is a £79 fine for not registering one of the bikes off the road.
Oh,
Yeah.
like Sawn.
So I didn't register it Sawn, and I forgot.
Oh.
Because you had too many.
Because I had too many. And now that 80 quid, £79 that could have gone towards maybe the front tire
front
for the bike is now going to the government.
Yeah,
and if there's anything I don't like, it is. If there's anything I don't like, it's my money going to the government. So there you go. A cautionary tale there. For any budding bike enthusiast.
Just trying to hoard a load of bikes.
Well, and it is hoard because I don't sell them. That's the problem. They sit in the corner of a barn and they get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, I think that is like the norm. I think with it all, I think it's strange if you're buying them and selling them, keep it flowing.
Yeah, because it's more fun, isn't it, to waste your money and let it sit there and make any money? Like
Expensive hobby.
It's an
expensive hobby, and it's more fun because it's irresponsible. Like bikes, bikes are irresponsible. Cars are irresponsible. We should all really just get the bus everywhere. Do you know what I mean? But it's more fun because it's irresponsible. Irresponsibility is fun.
Yeah, it adds an extra level to it.
We'll put that on the notes for next episode. Why we talk about irresponsibility and why is it fun. Thanks for the next podcast.
I like that.
No problem. I'll sit in the corner for that one.
Like one of your bikes.
He just points at me and say,
that guy.
That guy. Yeah.
All right, Steve.
And you, Charles, what have you been up to?
Oh, fuck all.
Have you sorted your sleep pattern out?
Oh, absolutely not.
No, don't tell me it's got worse.
Oh, it's got worse since I've been back. It's genuinely fallen to like a really bad point in my life.
Really disastrous
so,
level.
Yeah, so
talk me through this because I've no idea.
Well, I was.
You don't want to know.
Yeah,
you don't want to know this.
Let's say Def tried to get me, and I said no. Let's just put it that way.
He was knocking on the door.
He's knocking on the door.
You jumped out the
knocking on
window.
heaven's door, and they didn't open.
Nobody's in.
Let's just put it that way. But yeah, no, I'm slowly trying to get it back up.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm allowed to do light exercise in 2 weeks. So once I'm back on that, I'm all right.
What constitutes as light exercise?
Yeah, what does
Having a wank.
Yeah.
It depends.
How long a wank, a light jog, who knows? But we'll soon find out.
Yeah, we'll find out the level.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is when you messaged me after your gig.
Oh yeah, Post Malone. I went to.
Well,
that's one thing that I did.
I was supposed to be here earlier, but you went to. You were
Yeah.
at Post Malone.
Sorry about that. It was good.
Don't apologise for Post Malone.
I'm a big fan. It cost a lot. But do you know what I was quite upset with? They separated the floor standing into a VIP area and a normal floor standing.
What?
So you paid more to get into this VIP, kind of like a golden circle kind of thing. But then,
what do you mean?
Then there was just a big but there was just a big separation in Manchester Arena, so the crowd was absolutely dead for the whole of it, which was not great. But
That's a bit odd.
And where do those chosen few go? Do they go to the front?
They just go to the front near the stage.
So they get like first.
Yeah, and then there's a gap, and then a guardrail for the.
The
peasants.
Two
For the peasants.
Yeah, 2 guardrails.
Well, talking of peasants, it does actually lead on to
our topic today.
Yeah.
Our topic.
Yeah, well, the topic of today, the don't even know how do we even start this one?
Yeah.
Well, I'd call it Russian Revolution and surrounding events, which isn't exactly the most exciting, but
no, it's pure chaos.
Yeah, well, it is, and it's for the brethren of chaos. You have to bring
chaos.
It suits it perfect.
Yeah. I was asked for a topic, and this is talking about chaotic things. This is arguably one of the most chaotic historical events.
Oh,
ever.
beautiful!
Can't wait to hear
Strap
this.
yourselves in.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Would you like me to begin the begin?
Where should we start with the
So the Russian Revolution, we're talking of the 1917 Russian Revolution, otherwise known as the October Revolution.
Yeah.
You can't start it without giving a little bit of context around
Bit
it.
of background.
A bit of background.
Bit of backstory.
Yeah, so 1917 Russian Revolution obviously is at, they had to revolt against something. The peasants, the people,
the uprising,
the
workers,
the workers' uprising, as it is also known as the workers' uprising.
Yeah.
So you have to start somewhere. We'll say Russia was ruled for about 300 years by the Romanovs. They were the leading power, a monarchy, absolute monarchy. No real government. No.
Yeah, that's it. There was no proper like we had Parliament and stuff like that. They were just fucking
running around like headless chickens.
Old school, yeah.
It was backwards, wasn't it, compared to Europe?
Very, very much so, yeah.
Because Europe was
the French years and years before. And the Greeks and we're talking up until, well, spoiler alert, up until 1917 was arguably ran just by the monarchy.
Yeah.
Shit.
Which is so the time of the Russian Revolution, the Romanovs, you were into Nicholas II.
That was it.
Again, also spoiler alert, the last of not maybe the Romanovs, but the last of the Tsars.
The final man, the final boss.
The boss battle.
The boss battle.
The final boss battle of Russia in 1917. So his dad, Nicholas I, did like some good things, broadly speaking.
Not what I was expecting.
Yeah, so he's most famous for the emancipation of the serfs. So that's like basically the uprising of the working class and giving them the rights. Working class couldn't own anything really.
It was a feudal system, wasn't it? Basically, yeah.
What's a feudal system?
So it's like I don't know how do you put it. Like the top people own. Like
top
the
people own
land and the
everything.
businesses and everything,
and they give bits to they lend bits to other people. So like if you're a farmer over here, a lot of farmers own their own land. That's like going to a farm and the farmer works the land. The farmer plants everything. The farmer picks everything out of the ground, or feeds the animals, kills the animals, takes them to slaughter, does all the work, but gets a wage, just gets something off of the governments, because the governments, or should I say, the monarchy, own everything.
Yeah, that's
depressing.
Feudal. It's
super depressing.
It's basically like all medieval. Any medieval was that, wasn't it?
Yeah, and this, I mean, again, this went in some sort of form for which is it's now just over 100 years ago, but it was around 100 years ago.
Yeah,
which is insane to think like where we weren't exactly the head of everything really in the early 20th century. Arguably, like the French were in front of us in like rights and stuff like that.
Yeah, the liberties.
Yeah, the liberties that we have and that were afforded, but Russia were 500 years back. So Nicholas I his dad did a lot of good stuff. He emancipated the serfs. He did a lot of bad stuff as well. But when he left the throne, it's important, like this again, it all kind of ties in. It's important to remember Nicholas II, his son, who took over, never wanted the job.
Right.
He had a brother who he thought was much more deserving of the job. However, obviously with these, they don't really elect him.
Yes,
they just appoint.
Yeah, they just appoint them, and he was appointed, and he really didn't want the job.
Nicholas II.
Nicholas II. Tsar Nicholas II.
I wrote some funny notes.
Go for it.
That I figured out. What I learned from Nicholas II was, we went to Japan. So when he was growing up, he went to Japan, moved over there, and he got a dragon tattoo.
Right.
On his back.
I'm not sure where actually. Google. I should have Googled it. Yeah, where did you get?
Have you got a Ouija board?
But I think I got a fucking proper Yakuza styled fucking.
That's pretty cool.
Dragon tattoo,
cool,
isn't it?
Yeah.
And he got like some Japanese policeman tried to behead him. That's why he had a scar on his
him?
on his and he's like, some pictures you could see somewhere like a scar on his forehead.
That's pretty blurry. That I didn't know that. There you go. That's a pretty. That's a good souvenir, I suppose.
Yeah,
as any. You're not going to lose it, are you? Do you know what I mean?
Talk about police brutality. You know what I mean? Fucking beheading you.
Yeah, you can't look what I got in Japan. Dragon tattoo.
Not bad. I didn't know that. But yes, he didn't really want to take over.
He wasn't ready.
He wasn't ready. He believed he was too young. He believed, which makes more sense now.
So how old was he?
He was, I believe, in his early 30s.
Okay.
I think late 20s, early 30s. He wasn't particularly old.
There's not like an average median age for like taking over, something like that, is there?
Bizarrely, like if you look, like it's actually quite old in a sense. Like back then, because people didn't live as long.
So that's true.
So like if you look at Lizzie, the second, she was what, 99?
Yeah. Quite old.
And Charles is what, 70 something?
Yeah, he's in his 70s now.
But like Victoria was in her 20s. I think, or 19. Was she 19
when she took over?
When she took over the crown,
she was young. Yeah, she was young. Yeah,
she was really young. So but people just didn't live as long. Because the food wasn't as good, and if you had a paper cut, you probably
you're dead there. It was a 50-50. Wet paper towels on that
game
one.
over.
Yeah, it was a 50-50. They get like a woodpecker to come and pick the blood out or something. That was the treatment.
Isn't it funny, Nicholas? So we're about Nicholas II. Doesn't he look exactly like was it his granddad or his uncle or something? He looks and it's because they were inbred.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing when you look at it, and you look at his brother as well. His brother looked very similar, and he looks very similar to his dad. Now they all have big stashes, which kind of does
added to the effect.
Yeah, it does add to the effect, but they do look frighteningly similar. He also had a cousin that was,
or is that what I'm thinking of? Maybe
it was in the German royal family, and who was basically like his doppelganger.
I think that's who I'm thinking of. Yeah, he looks exactly the same.
It like frighteningly so.
Yeah.
The stories about, I mean, I can't. He was a Wilhelm, wasn't he? And there's stories about them, like how similar they were, and how similar they were as people, and like there was like it's kind of like doppelgangery, very odd. But yeah, probably
cloning people back then. Now,
probably because they were all inbred. Yeah, it doesn't really help.
Yeah, the whole bloodline's mixed.
Yeah.
It's tasty bloodline.
We love a bit of inbred, don't we?
Toxic
here on the pod.
So yeah, it starts with him, and basically he didn't want the job. And when you don't want a job, but you've kind of got to do the job, you don't really do the job well, do you?
Yeah.
Half-arse it. Yeah.
That's a very good point to make.
I'd like to. I mean, obviously, it's this isn't a history talk. It's a talk about history, but it's more the interesting stuff is all formed from the people, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've always found that it's easy to think, oh yeah, if you were the king, you just do this and you just do that, but you're born into a family who have reigned for 260 years, and you're kind of a bit selfish and a bit thinking, oh, I fucking can't be arsed.
Normal life, isn't it? You see that through history. It's like a lot of people genuinely within the family don't necessarily want that step up.
Don't want it
towards the power. Probably because it's just normal to them. We see it as a fucking, a deity type of role.
What would you be doing, Charles?
I'd just be beheading.
Would you?
Yeah, fuck it. Yeah, why not?
Straight to Stalin.
I know you would. You'd ride in on everyone like,
cause chaos. Let's fuck this shit.
I know deep down, Steve. I know.
I'd like to say that I just abdicate. Because I'm staunchly anti-royal.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't, would you? I mean, let's be real. The power.
Yeah, it'd take you over.
Crazy.
Imagine you could basically do what you want to a sense, couldn't you?
Yeah.
You could party every night.
Yeah. And part of every day.
And
Well, it actually begs the question about, would you... Because, I'll ask you this on that sense. Do you think that power would overtake what you would think about the anti-royalism side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd love to say, I'd be able to be one of these people who go, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But it obviously would.
Yeah, it would take over.
It obviously would, because
as soon as you're getting like bottles of free champagne.
Yeah, that'd be the time. That'd be. It's when someone asks me what I want for breakfast, and I'd have to make my own breakfast. I'd be like, hang on here. And you can say pancakes, and then they just arrive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have to like go and get eggs and flour and stuff.
500 pancakes, please.
Yeah, and then that's the thing, and then that's how you start for you to find out. You go,
Yeah,
your first breakfast, you go like, oh, just eggs, toast,
An omelette.
eggs, omelette.
But the fifth day,
Yeah,
you're like big
you're like,
breakfast, 5 pancakes.
I want the head of a dolphin.
You'd be like, fuck it, wouldn't you?
I want the head of a dolphin, and in the mouth of that dolphin, I want the head of a pig, and in the head of the pig, I want the head of a chicken. That's what I want for breakfast.
And they'll fucking do it as
Now
well.
go.
Yeah, good that for me.
Oh, behead your mother.
Well, it's all come out here for Sam.
That's the thing.
You know the
This
answer
is
from
deep
it.
down what you want
Yeah,
here.
this is that's what I worry about. So it keeps me up at night. If I had that power, no, hopefully I wouldn't. But I think genuinely, what would I do? I mean, what would you do if you had absolute power? It's hard to imagine, isn't it?
Yeah,
but
it's difficult.
I think you'd try and do some good stuff, wouldn't you?
I think so.
You'd try and
Yeah.
do some good stuff. And
I think us three would do good stuff.
I think we do pretty good stuff. Yeah,
All
I
right,
think.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
we're not going to be like Mao. We're not.
No Maoism.
We're not having. Yeah.
No Stalins.
We're not having the killing fields again.
You know what? I'm not going to be. I mean, I might be talking out of term here. He was a bit of a bastard, wasn't he? Stalin and Mao as well. To be fair,
Yeah.
bit of a prick, I'd say.
I can
I
imagine
want to use too strong words.
Yeah. Maybe.
But he's a bit of a ninny. Do you know what I mean?
something wasn't right about
Someone
that.
wasn't right about that bloke. Like, someone wasn't
I thought
right
they were
about
all right.
Yeah. This is why we can't. This is why we're never going to take power, Charles. 'cause you
Yeah,
can't-
I know, right?
You can't be thinking.
A
these-
morality scale here.
Yeah, it's
But that's
gone.
when
It's not
those
quite right.
when those names come up on the questionnaire. What do you think of these blokes? I think they were all right. They probably,
Yeah. What's up with them?
yeah. I think Stalin had a great moustache.
So he didn't want to take power,
Mm-hmm.
but he was thrust into it, and
Yeah.
basically, what happened from there?
So he takes power in the late 1800s, so 1897, I believe. I might be wrong there.
Yeah.
So he takes power. Basically, doesn't really do much. Not good for the people anyway. People are calling for reform. Basically, there's the emancipation of the serfs happens from his father, and he was supposed to really carry that on. So his father did his father did that. He's supposed to kind of carry that on, and he didn't. He didn't really, because again, he just didn't really want the job. He was supposed to carry that on. He was supposed to come in more line in with the Europeans. Bearing in mind the Russian royal family resided in a Winter Palace.
That's it. Yeah.
Which is but now we'd call St. Petersburg. But it was not St. Petersburg at the time. Petrograd.
Petrograd. Yeah.
Which sounds like a Soviet name, Petrograd.
Petrograd.
But because we think of Stalingrad, but it's just what it was Stalin harking back to that time, harking back to the time that.
What
he
was Leningrad? Where was that?
Leningrad was Moscow.
Was it? Yeah.
It's Leningrad and then Stalingrad because it's where the Communist Party, or the Socialist Republican Party, took to change the capital city.
That's it. Yeah.
So it was originally St. Petersburg.
Yeah. We're naming it after ourselves.
We're naming it after ourselves. And obviously, by the time it was Stalingrad, Lenin was dead, so you couldn't really do much about it. Do you know what I mean?
I'm having this. My name is coming onto this. Nobody can do anything.
It looks good. Doesn't it look good? Stalingrad. It looks good, doesn't it?
It does sound good.
It does sound good.
It does.
To be fair.
Sounds Russian.
Stalingrad.
Yeah.
It sounds like it does sound like a boss level encounter.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I don't want to.
Stalingrad.
If I was a peasant, wouldn't want to be doing an uprising there.
Yeah, Stalin. Yeah, it's not inviting for an uprising, is it? Stalingrad. It sounds bad. It sounds like you're gonna get yourself in trouble. So yeah, they in Petrograd, where the Winter Palace is, inside the walls of the Winter Palace, they spoke French. They didn't speak Russian.
Did they?
They thought Russian. Well, generally, yeah. So the royal family would speak French, and the people who served them would speak French. When you'd have a party, the people who were invited to the party would speak French.
You have to speak French.
You get beheaded.
Yeah, because obviously
what's the password? Bonjour, bonjour.
So I mean, I can't speak for how good the French was that they spoke, but obviously they were only inviting people who had the money to learn French.
You mean they don't actually speak French?
I mean, no. I mean,
and they're just trying to.
Just
it's all
trying
broken.
so bad.
Maybe they've all got
Je
dictionaries.
m'appelle.
maybe they were speaking Russian in a French accent.
Just broken French.
Yeah, super broken. Like everyone's running around with shitty arses because no one knows where the
I
loo
bet
is.
just one day they go, right, should we just fucking stop doing this?
Yeah.
Who made this fucking rule?
Yeah, I don't like this.
But it goes to show like the opinion they had of themselves, the opinion of the people they kept company with, the opinion of how they can be in the middle of their country technically,
and they won't speak the language,
and they won't speak their own language because that's
a
how,
good point.
That's how high of an opinion these people have of
Very
themselves.
good point. Yeah.
So through the early part of his reign, there is more and more disdain from the working class people and from the peasant class, the people who
he's not fixing problems.
The people from, because remember Russia's huge, absolutely huge, but most of it is arid desert and mountains and farmland. So most of the people that didn't move to the big cities, which a lot of people did. A lot of people relocated to go to factories because that's where the work was, and go to live closer to one another, and instead of having, they're working on these farms in the middle of nowhere. It's understandable.
In the middle of Siberia.
The place of exile. That's what that was.
10 days to go to the local shop.
I mean, I don't know how Siberia is now, but it was. They used to send at this time. They used to send people to Siberia, as that was their exile.
That was the.
They sent it to Siberia, and it was called, and it was known as the place where nothing grows.
God, that's depressing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Imagine people just living there as their home, and people are getting exiled to it.
Yeah.
Everybody's saying it's shithole. The place of nothing grows.
People turning up, kicking rocks.
Yeah.
Going, shit.
That's how people think of St. Helens.
Yeah.
Exiled here.
This is
parallels
exile.
there.
Yeah. This is the Siberia of the UK.
I when I was in Nepal, there was we went into Polker, stayed there, and that's like a tourist place in Nepal for like the whole of the people from India and around the countries go. But they have loads of Russians from Siberia in the winter because they don't want to live in Siberia throughout the winter.
I do not blame them, because apparently Siberia, especially at the time, was fucking horrible. I mean, sure, it's always a lot better now, but it was, it was like, I mean, the weather-wise, obviously it's probably not, but there was an initiative at some point, they were selling parcels of land in Siberia, the Russians, and were saying, come to Siberia, we'll give you like 10 acres.
It's got a gulag on it.
We'll give you 10 acres for nothing. Why am I wearing these striped overalls? Why are the chains
I'd
on my
fucking
arm?
fall for that as a peasant. I'd be like,
100%. Well, a lot of people did. A lot of people were like, oh my God, 10
Siberia.
What can I grow on there? Nothing.
Fuck off.
Ice, snow, water. That's all in that order. That's what you grow on it.
Get mauled by a bear.
Yeah, more ripped to pieces by a lion or a tiger, even. But yeah, it wasn't a happy place to be. Siberia. But yeah, but so there's all this civil, a lot of civil unrest. People want to change. People don't see him or the royal family, or technically their governments, because technically it was governance of some sort, doing anything for them. So there are more things. There were more uprisings. Bearing in mind at the time, striking was illegal. You couldn't strike.
Yeah, I can't do that.
What do you mean strike? What do you mean? You don't want to go to work, and you want to go to work.
Yeah.
And but not work. What are you doing?
What's going on?
So no one could strike. There was no such legal action. So protesting was kind of a bit of a grey area. You couldn't really protest, but as long as it wasn't violence, I suppose people did. There was no right to assembly. There was no right to free speech. There was no right to. So there was a lot of we're talking about. This is the early 1900s.
It's funny you say that, and you look at Russia now.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. It's the same.
Yeah. I mean, now it is. Yeah. I mean, it's. They're going backwards, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's frightening. I mean, I've made notes on that, really, of like how there are parallels now, which again, I studied history at university, history and politics at university, and one of the main takeaways I always have is it's very important. There's a lot of arguments against studying history, because there's no. It's not. People believe it's not actionable. You can't really. You can, if you learn about biology, you can go out into the world
and do something,
and see biology and do something with biology.
Yeah.
It's same with any of the sciences. Same with a lot of the creative things, English and music. You can kind of do stuff with that, but with history, there is an argument that you can't really do anything with history because the history is what has been.
There's no like physical thing you can do, isn't there?
I mean, you can go and look at stuff, but you're only looking at stuff after the fact. You only look at it in retrospect. My thought on history, especially stuff like this, is history is very important because it's to see the parallels. You say it's hard to predict things. Most things have happened.
It's like it comes back round.
It all comes back round. Most things have happened. 99% of things have happened.
Yeah.
And
even literally fucking asteroids are wiped out.
Yeah, and
fucking animals on the earth. That's happened. To that level.
And we can see, history informs us of that. We can see the mistakes coming if we know enough about what came before. We can see the good things that might come. But we also know the downsides because we have seen it all before.
And I think it's important as well because if you look back on history as well, and you are just say like a normaler person, I think you're just more aware of everyday things, right?
Yeah, of everything happening.
Yeah, because I think people that don't know history, then they will just be less aware in general as well.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Just about
you see more by having seen more.
That's the perfect way of saying it. So
you're right.
It is applicable to life.
Yeah.
It is. Even you could go into journalism as well. Like that's such a big thing. So
I mean, also by the way, disclaimer. I've done absolutely fuck all with my degree. but
you're here now on the pod.
I this is where it starts.
I think everybody has done nothing with the degree.
To be fair, I didn't finish my degree, is why I didn't do anything with it. I did nothing with it because I don't have it. But
we'll cut it out and we'll say you do have a degree.
I do have a degree. But
wait, this can be the finishing of the degree.
Yeah, this can be.
Yeah, is
this my dissertation?
This is your dissertation today.
So, but yeah, I mean, I always think it's important. We'll see it as we go through it. There are things to draw parallels to.
Yeah,
this is broadly the Russian Revolution we're talking about, but it's important to note that in this period of time there are actually arguably 3 Russian revolutions. Everyone talks about 1917, specifically October 1917. Everyone talks about 1917 as being the Russian Revolution because that's where we hear the names outside of, we hear of Lenin. We hear of Trotsky. We hear of Bolsheviks, Mensheviks. We hear of socialism, Marxism.
That's it, yeah.
So we hear of all that stuff. We associate it just with, that was the Russian Revolution. In actual fact, arguably, it depends on who you ask. Personally, I believe it. The Russian Revolution started in 1905. So 1905. There's an event called Bloody Sunday.
I wrote that down.
Great name.
Wrote that down, but no notes on it.
Great name.
We've got to talk about this.
So we could talk about
the 1905.
Yeah. So 1905. It's called a lot of things. Most of the time, it's called Bloody Sunday.
How many Bloody Sundays has there been?
There's a lot of Bloody Sundays. Yeah. Because I think I remember someone saying when I was studying this that were like, oh, it's like that U2 song.
Yeah.
I was like, well, it technically is like that U2 song, but it wasn't about that Bloody Sunday.
It wasn't about that.
There was another Bloody
Sunday.
that they're talking about that was not in Russia. It was in Ireland. But
is everybody just hungover from Saturday?
And yeah, just much.
They just want to cause shit.
It just gets bloody. Yeah.
It gets bloody.
And it's specifically only on Sunday.
Yeah.
But, God, it just sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds
Sunday.
great.
Because if you say Bloody Sunday, that sounds cool. But if you say Bloody Wednesday, that's like, oh, fucking Bloody Wednesday again.
Is there a death metal band called Bloody Sunday?
There's got to be, hasn't there?
There's got to be, right?
If there's not, there is now.
Yeah, there is now.
We're having that.
Yeah, we're having that.
Yeah, we put it out in the world. We have to take it before anybody else does.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So Bloody Sunday, basically it's an odd start to a revolution.
Don't tell me it wasn't on a Sunday.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. But it started on a Thursday. No, it was on a Sunday, and technically, actually, it's a good point. Now you mention it, it's good to think. So the Russians at the time didn't operate on the same calendar that we do. So
Right.
technically, it wasn't Sunday. If you talk about old Sunday, like old calendar, new calendar,
Is it Julian?
It would have
Or something?
been. It would have been. It's 16 days before. We operate on a Gregorian calendar.
Yeah.
They operate on a Julian calendar at
Julian.
the time.
There you go, yeah.
Is that what it's 16 days out?
I think is it 16 or 8? No, I think it's 16.
Well, yeah.
About 16 days out. So it's 16 days behind now.
Yeah, I get you.
We'll get onto it in a second about the other revolution, because that is, it is actually quite relevant, that calendar thing. But yeah, there is a difference in the calendars. So actually, it probably wasn't. It might have been Sunday. Could have been Monday. Could have been Saturday. But it was, it's either side of it.
It was a bloody day.
It was a bloody day.
All you need to know, it was very bloody. So 1905, Bloody Sunday. There's a protest at outside of Windsor Palace, and as I say, Tsar Nicholas II didn't really want the job. He didn't really carry any on any of his father's work, and people became very restless. All these people from outside of the cities and all these people from inside the cities, the working class, the people who worked in the factories and things, they became very, very dissatisfied with what they thought was going on with their country. The respect that they were getting was, nothing. They had no rights.
Zilch.
We weren't heard.
Yeah.
The only things they could do, they thought, was to go to the palace. Now, it's very interesting as well who was leading the revolution. There's a man called, I wouldn't think you'd call him Reverend, maybe.
Reverend
Georgie Gapon, which is like I don't know if I'm butchering the pronunciation. I do not speak Russian, but he was
speak French.
I speak a bit of French, yeah. But they speak French, so I'll just fit it in the Winter Palace, in all honesty. But he basically spearheaded this protest. Wasn't a revolution.
He was a reverend as well.
He was a reverend, and not only was he a reverend, he was a reverend of the Russian Orthodox Church, which is very important, because the Russian Orthodox Church, it ties to the Tsarism thing. So as a Tsar, Nicholas II, and all of his predecessors, they weren't the royal family. They were the royal family, but they weren't the royal family because they had some sort of name or they had wealth. In the eyes of the public, and in their eyes, and in the eyes of the Russian Orthodox Church, they were appointed by God. They were as close to a deity, as you said at the start. They were as close to a deity as is possible. The Russian Orthodox Church basically say, and has said at the time, that, well, the word of the Tsar is the word of God, not is tantamount to, not is similar to, not is just as good as.
It is.
It is the word of God.
Wow.
So if he says jump, you say how high, because otherwise, you kind of boo-booing on God, and you're really a fan of that.
Shit.
That's no bueno.
So it was you again. This, like, the Romanovs, they had this, and the royal family had this backing. It was not just that they were rich. It was not just that they were the royal family. It was also that his word was the word of God.
Yeah.
Obviously, religion being a lot more prevalent then, especially the Russian Orthodox Church. So it was very odd for someone in the Russian Orthodox Church to be speaking against.
Yeah, I get you.
Against the
leading this
against the Tsar, because in his eyes, he should be following his every word, because he's basically basically his God.
Yeah.
He's basically the guy
God's
he goes to pray to
God's lyrics
at church.
Yeah.
So he's God's lyrics, straight from the hymn sheet. It's and so he was going against him, and basically it was a workers' protest. So the workers went to protest for better pay, equal rights. For workers, better hours, better conditions, all the things that we still, and again, into the parallels of history, we still do it for now.
Because it's still going on now.
Nothing's especially at this time of recording. There were a lot of strikes. There were a lot of things. People asking for pretty much exactly the same thing.
That's so interesting,
because these things never change, and that and this is one of those things that kind of didn't change. So. At the set, they basically come to the palace. There are thousands of them, and there is a small contingent of guards at the front of the palace.
Yeah,
Gapon's somewhere near the front, and a few of the protesters start to get a little bit aggressive, let's say,
a bit hands-on,
because you're talking about not just people who are the workers in factories, but you're also talking about people who were political.
Right.
Something that was brought about by his father, this idea of studying, because he was, Russia was quite anti-studying, it was quite anti...
They were uneducated, weren't they?
Quite anti-education,
Yeah.
Whereas his father changed a lot of that. So now you had these university students and people who had a broader mindset,
Bit of knowledge
and a bit of travel because they were allowed, because for a long time they weren't allowed to travel, but they did allow some travel when you were in university.
Yeah.
So they'd travel to France, and they'd travel maybe to the UK, and they'd travel to Britain at the time. They'd travel to a lot of places. So they had their eyes open, they'd seen the differences.
Yeah, they'd seen what's going on in the other places.
And obviously they'd seen from the French, protesting and revolutions kind of work.
They know how to do it.
Because they really know how to do it, the French. Smaller denim, but it kind of runs now, not quite recently over here. We've had this whole fuel thing, like fuel prices going through the roof and stuff. And everyone just kind of took it because it's kind of like how we do it in this country.
Yeah.
We just kind of take it.
We start apologising.
Yeah, we start apologising.
Sorry,
the fuel's so
sorry about that.
expensive.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, yeah. But in France, it was 10, 15 years ago, their fuel price, same thing, fuel prices increased, but less. They increased by about 10%. And it was like overnight. I love the French for this because I have some French lineage.
Yeah.
I have French family, and I love my French family, but I also the French as people. They're pretty good to keep an eye on.
They take no shit.
Yeah, 'cause they don't take any shit. So the fuel prices went up. The first people to notice were the truckers because they were the ones that were doing the distance driving.
Of course, yeah.
They went sacre bleu, and they saw all the prices of the thing. So no one talked, and this is the great thing about the French. No one talked. They just parked the trucks in line on all the auto routes and just blocked all the motorways.
Oh, that's top. That is,
like
isn't
that.
it?
I
So
like
no one
that.
could get to work, and then everyone else in France starts waking up, and they see the prices.
Yeah.
So they roll out of bed. Look at the price. What the fuck?
What's going on?
So
here?
instead of going, I don't know, what should I do? I'll go to work and I'll walk the last 10 minutes or whatever. No,
Car
started filling Molotovs with filling bottles of booze with Molotovs.
I bet that was expensive. These Molotovs have gone up.
What's going on? They got up 10%.
and just started. To be fair, I don't think they paid for most of it. In all honesty, it's not a very French thing to. But they are generally quite a polite.
We'd
people,
be paying for it.
But
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
It's just Molotov.
Yeah, I don't want to drink it. I'm not an alcoholic. I promise. I'm just going to use it to burn that petrol station down. But they just bombed petrol stations and barricaded the roads and didn't let anyone. Next day,
Changed.
straight back down
Prices down.
because the French don't take no shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this is kind of like the Russians at the time. They were kind of sick, fed up, and they wanted change. So, and you had all these kind of not just, as I say, not just the workers, but people like young people like students and people who were maybe a bit angrier and a bit more switched on. Some aggressions begins in the crowd, and they start throwing things and stuff. Now, obviously, there's a small contingency of guards there, but it starts to get a bit more aggressive, and they start to get a bit worried. Now, what you'd generally do in that situation, in my opinion, would be call more guards. To just be there as a deterrent.
Yeah.
That's what I'd do personally.
But
if I was in that thing,
if you were a dictator,
if I was a dictator, I mean, I'd just call more guys, have a bit more backup. But obviously, that makes sense. They didn't do that. They fired upon the protesters.
Started shooting.
They killed. Somewhere. The numbers vary between 100 and 500 of them. Gapon escaped. He was pulled through the crowd by someone who was wearing his priest's habit. He was given commoner's clothes and he was pushed away because he was kind of leader of the revolution. He was kind of an important dude. They killed a lot of people. Obviously, not good.
That's never going to end well. That situation there is just never going to end well, isn't it?
And this is what I mean about this being the start, because without this event, none of the rest of it
would have bloomed.
Would have happened, because this is where people now had the proof.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, they really don't give a fuck about
You've taken it too far.
Yeah. All the other stuff's just kind of these are laws that have been around for years. Well, we can change them, and now they're like, oh, no, they ain't changing shit.
Yeah.
They really don't give a fuck. So after this, obviously something has to be done, because now the strike action at the time, on average there were 4 strikes a year, and it increased to something like 60.
Big increase.
Yes.
So you're way over 10 times as many.
That's like our bloody petrol prices.
That year, 1905, exactly. It's like it's all about these parallels.
Yeah, it's all about
parallels. So Nicholas II thought, I have to do something. I'm going to have to do something.
That was 1905. Yeah.
So that was 1905. I'm going to have to do something, because this isn't,
He doesn't want to.
I don't, yeah,
But he
exactly.
has to.
Again, and there's another thing, he didn't want to, but he had to. The people were calling for rights. They were calling for the chance to vote like every other country.
Yeah.
They were asking for the rights to have says in laws. They were asking for the right to petition, the right for free speech, the right, all these things that we now really do, especially in this country, take for granted. These people fought tooth and nail for. So they kind of get the way. And I say kind of because, well, we'll get into it. The October Manifesto is put together by it's Nicholas II and his advisors, which kind of outlines, yes, we made a mistake and we've done really bad things, blah, 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 blah. Here's some things that will make you happy.
Sorry for killing your wives, your husband.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Shoot your kids.
Sorry about shooting you in the street like dogs. But unfortunately, now we're going to do you can kind of have free speech, so you can do that, and you can get up in big groups as long as you don't throw shit, and so he tries to. It sounds like he's trying to make concessions.
Yeah,
and one of the main things they want is a government. They want a government, not just a bloke. Because
the royal king.
Yeah, because at the time, Nicholas II, again, he didn't want the job. He was just here, there, and everywhere all the time. He was barely ever there. The start of in Bloody Sunday, he wasn't there.
Yeah.
He wasn't in the palace. He was somewhere else.
He's like Danny Dyer. Have you seen that where the
Chilling.
fight starts in the pub?
Yeah, and he just disappears.
Gotta get fucking out of here.
Gotta get out of here, mate.
The next scene's him running out the pub.
So I got out of there. Is it fucking? God love him, but did you ever see that video of him getting smacked by that bloke and he starts crying? Oh, it's so funny. He does one of them shows. It was like about 10, 15. You never seen this video?
No.
About 10, 15 years ago. Look it up. It's so funny. He did one of them
Right, we need to look at this after
Britain's Danny Dyer's Britain's hardest men, and he goes to this pub, and this bloke, this big fucking Cockney, bald, fucking tattooed, fucking love hate, fucking knuckle tattooed dude, is like, when you come in the pub, you just give us shit, and just fucking give him a bit of fucking whitener, just fucking smack him. And he going like, and Daniel's like, and what was that like? What was that like? And he goes, yeah. And he just they go to the back of the pub and he sits to me and goes, you ready? And he goes, yeah. And this fucking bloke just smacks him. Bah!
Oh, God.
Rattles his head and he goes, do you see? Just a little whitener. Just to wake him up.
Tears in his eyes.
And he goes, Danny Dyer starts proper trying to man it out. And he's like holding his eyes together. And he's going, oh, fucking hell. And he's quiet, he starts, oh, fuck.
Oh, fuck.
And he goes, oh, fucking hell. Fucking stings that guy. Oh,
have another
fucking hell. And then he turns away from the camera, and then when the camera turns around to him, his tears coming out of his eyes.
Tears.
And he's holding his face, and he's going, I'm going to need a minute. And he fucks off.
It's like an
Probably
episode
fucks off and runs out the pub to be fair, like he does all the time. God love him, but he got smacked the fuck up like by this dude.
I need to see.
Yeah, we'll see that
great.
after. We'll have a look at that after.
I'll show you in the smoke break. So they want a government.
Yeah.
So he tries to give them one. He gives them one in some sort of form. It's called a Duma, D-U-M-A.
Okay.
And it is
a bit like the Doom Bar up there.
Yeah. Like the thing again, it's all coming around. They named a beer after a Russian government. So he basically tries to appease them. He doesn't really do it because he wants to. He does it because he goes, fucking hell, it'll shut him up for a bit.
Yeah,
so
I see.
The idea being that the Duma is put in place so people can vote. And people can vote on issues and people can elect people. Like a government.
It's a good start.
It's a good start.
Healthy start, that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's him really trying to make amends.
Yeah. I'd be happy if I seen that.
Yeah.
If I seen that going on, I'd be, okay.
So one of the people who the head of this at the time, or through a lot of it, was a bloke called Sir J. Witt. He was kind of like the head of the government. and he was also big pals with Nicholas.
Of course.
Yeah.
So
did he want to do it?
yeah, I mean, I think he was pretty keen, to be fair. Like, yeah,
fair enough.
But now you want to. So you're giving people votes, yeah, and that's great. What they failed to mention was that the votes weighed differently. So if you were a lowly serf or a farmer or whatever, you did get a vote.
Yeah.
You had a vote. However, if you were favoured, if you were someone of a title, a noble, a lord,
bastards.
well esteemed,
you had something between 35 to 50 votes.
What? that's
So
that's fucking.
you know when you say like your word is as good as mine. Well, no, your
not.
word is actually 50 times less as good as mine.
Oh.
So you could be in a poll. It's like going to a polling station and putting a vote in.
Yeah.
And putting your one thing in the ballot card, and then a bloke comes up behind you with a stack of 2 papers and
in
going
a suit and
a
everything.
Yu-Gi-Oh
like,
deck of cards.
and can't even fit it through the gob. There's that many papers.
Nicholas, listen, mate, you were doing so well, and now this wit guy's come in,
and it's just
he's on track for a second.
So that was a notable bad thing. The Duma was actually dissolved 3 times. Because the people kind of cottoned on. They were like, hang on, wait a minute. Something's not right about this. So they were like, he was like, oh, like Scooby-Doo. Like, if I'd have got it if it wasn't for you. So he'd like do it again. So he'd get like so he'd put another one together. He'd go, this, the first one, maybe. Maybe I was a bit wrong the first time.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
again.
But this time, this
is the government.
Right.
He's only got 30 more votes than you.
Yeah. And then so like by the time there's a few things happen by like I mean these are all intermingling times because they happen quite close to each other. There's a what now is termed as Russification, which was basically again this is parallels. I call it now. It's like UKIP. It's like the UKIP effect, the Russification. It's the making Britain British. It's the make America great again. That happened in Russia.
Get the flag up, Charles.
Get the flag up.
That happened in Russia in the early 1900s.
You say about the tribes or whatever. There's so much ethnic groups in Russia.
Russia was massive because it's huge and because it bordered a lot of Europe. Russia was massively ethnically diverse. Even then, was massively ethnically diverse. So you had a lot of generally like Caucasian, Christian Russians. You also had a lot of black Russians, not the cocktail. You also had a lot of probably the cocktail as well. To be fair, they probably had a lot of them, they also had a lot of white Russians. But they had a lot of black Russians. They had a lot of Muslim Russians.
Is that the Kazakhs?
Yeah, they had a lot of Cossacks as well. A lot of Kazakhs. They had a lot of Polish. Yeah. A lot of Polish emigrated to Russia for work and things like that. Farming.
What about like round China way?
I think there was. I mean, there's not as much mention of them at the time, but there were quite a lot of East Asian. There's quite a large East Asian population as well. There was a lot of people there, and a lot of diversity, which I think it was one thing that they actually, that is. I suppose it has got worse now. I think with Russia, as I gather, was there's a lot of ethnic diversity. Then, and it's kind of getting worse now with a lot of the. I think there's a lot of talk of like a Russification, like a second Russification in Russia. Where there's a lot of there's a lot of hatred from a lot of people towards. People who aren't their race, which is very obviously
it's hard to get into Russia now, isn't it?
It's still if we to ever have an argument about race ever in the history of the world is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's silly.
We are one race, the human race. There's but to still be having it now after the history.
Oh, it's bonkers.
It's crazy and it's horrible and it's just again all these things are cyclical. When you learn from history that all these things have happened before. So Brexit and all this stuff, and the argument, this kind of racism, it has happened before. With Russification. I mean, and it happened before that with the Crusades, and it's happened, it's happened before. It's always happened before.
Silly.
Yeah. So, basically that was
it was simulation. It's a simulation, I think.
Well, I mean, there's got to be an answer somewhere.
There's got to be.
There's got to be.
Fucking, I'm more clicked onto it now.
Tuning in.
Yeah.
But he's so the Russification was, like anything, the majority of people were told to blame the minority of people for all of their issues. It's not our fault.
Yeah.
It's the fault of, for example, the people, again, the most maligned people, some of the most maligned people in history, the Jewish population, of anything. Russian Jews got a really bad run of this at the time.
They don't have it good, do they?
They kind of got blamed for everything. A lot of the issues. They were also and treated like not even second-class citizens, but like third-class citizens. They couldn't own land.
Wow.
They could only tend land under supervision. They had no access to education, no access to formal education. Really disgusting, horrible things. However,
God, it's
awful, isn't it?
It's like if you go back through history, it's the same, isn't it?
It's the same.
All
It's
the
all the
same.
same.
The Jewish people have just always.
I'll tell you why always me.
Yeah, why always me?
However, have a guess the population percentage. Bear in mind, obviously, they had it's quite a large population. You ever guess the population percentage of Russian Jews?
It must be small, right?
Pretty small, yeah.
And they're saying
but they were a minority, but yeah. I mean, you could support. I mean, they were blamed for a lot of the issues, and there were actual laws to forbid them from doing all of these things.
Yeah.
So
they were blamed for all the. What was the population percentage then? Like,
have a guess. Shot in the dark.
4%.
Bloody hell! Charles on the button.
4%. 4%. It is right.
Yeah. So they only.
That's ridiculous.
So they've made up 4% of the population, but were blamed for most of the issues.
How does that even add up?
It doesn't exactly.
That's
but and when you think about it for literally half a second, you go, "That's ridiculous."
Well, it makes sense in the way that if we're going to blame someone, we're going to have to
anti-Semitism coming out.
Yeah.
It makes full sense.
Sorry, this way. No, it makes sense. These guys. It makes.
You have to finish the thought. Finish the thought quickly. Yeah.
Finish the thought, please. It's 4% because then there's less people to fucking fight back against, right?
Very good.
I see what you mean.
Very good point. Yeah. So
actually, you don't want to be saying the 90% of the population is the problem, and then all of a sudden they just fucking rise up, kill you. That's it, done.
Yeah, and they're talking about 9% of the population. There's also the time of the Russo-Japanese War. So the Russians had a war with Japan, lost massively.
Didn't they want like China or something? Was that when it was over?
Yeah. So there was a bit of demarcated land. Well, it started out. Yeah, there's a bit of demarcated land in between.
How does that even happen?
And they were like, and basically Russia said it was our. It's always the same thing. Again, same thing with wars. With the Russians wanted it. The Japanese wanted it. They both went to war, and the Russians handily lost. They lost massively, and obviously the government didn't lose. The people lost because they were the people who lost their lives and lost their livelihoods, lost their family. But it was just a rich people's war again, and that was also one of the things behind the 1905 revolution, because of all these people coming back from war, finding that nothing had changed. They were going to war for the country, and they've come back and they were worse off.
It's worse.
So and again, it was a lot of it was the hand of Nicholas II. A lot of it was by the hand of a gentleman called Sergei White or Sergei Witt. I don't know how you pronounce it. Cause it's
this Doombar guy.
Yeah, I've written a couple of interesting, quite funny things now to think about. At least this has changed. Most places in the world. So. Famous in, if you look at it, he did a lot of bad things, and one of his good things, which he wholeheartedly believed, one of his good things that he did, and it is still pointed at by people to say, well, actually, he did some good, and I suppose in context, at the time it probably was good, but now is laughable as this is it's really good what he did. No, it's not really. So he introduced labour laws. He was one of the first. There was no labour laws really in Russia, and he introduced labour laws. But he had a lot of labour laws directed at children, because children worked in factories.
Wow.
So children now, thanks to Sergei Witt, children aged 12 to 15 didn't work on Sundays.
Oh, fantastic!
Lovely stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Witt.
And holidays. They got religious holidays. Which is nice. 12 to 15. Yes, 12 to 15.
12 to 15.
I'm grateful of
Or
kids.
People under 12.
Or people under 12. They
had to work.
The people under 12 previously just worked. Now they can't work.
Okay.
Unless
that's good.
It's at night and it's in a glass factory.
Oh, fucking hell.
Genuinely.
Is that serious?
That's 100% serious.
That's fucking mental.
It was like, it's fine. Like, we shouldn't really be putting them to work all the time, but they can work at night in a glass
Do you know what it is? Someone's
Because it was one of Russia's biggest exports.
Someone's gone who's doing the night shift.
at least. Yeah,
You know what I mean? We'll fucking stick the ones under 11 on. You know what I mean?
You got little hands. You want to do the turning and stuff with the glasses. It's right. You got little hands. So genuinely, that is actually seen when people look back at him in our history. They go, well, actually, he did a lot for workers' rights. It's like, well, I suppose in context he did, but really, he didn't really, did he? What have been doing a lot for workers' rights is saying, oh, by the way, you know them children. Why did they not work?
Yeah.
Why did they go to school? Do you know what I mean?
My, it's
bonkers.
It blew my mind.
It's crazy.
That.
So obviously they were mashed. They were obviously through this doom stuff because they had a lot of these. They had a lot of these issues. There were mass strikes after 1905. This is where you start to see the formation, or maybe the en masse formation, the larger formation of what we now call the communist parties, the socialist parties. So Bolsheviks, Mensheviks. I don't know if you've got anything on your notes.
I took some notes from Lenin's stuff.
Yeah,
goes into all that. So
a brief like summary. There were a lot of socialist parties at the time, but the ones we talk about most now are Bolsheviks and Mensheviks. Mensheviks headed by Trotsky, and Bolsheviks headed by Lenin. That's the broad spectrum.
I took some notes on that. That came from when Lenin was exiled the first time, and he split the party because he was such a dickhead.
Yeah, true.
And the majority translates to what is it? Mensheviks, and the minority, or is it the opposite way?
No.
Is it
because the Mensheviks were seen. That was at the time, as far as I believe. Yeah, I think that is true. The Mensheviks were kind of less radical. Let's say they were what you'd call now centre left, like in political spectrum wise, whereas Bolsheviks were hard left,
full on
radical left.
Yeah, and that the Bolsheviks translates to minority. Or something close.
Something close to that.
So it was like the majority and the minority of this party that Lenin fucking
dissolved.
It caused fucking chaos with.
We could talk a bit about Lenin. Lenin was a genius, a prolific writer, a staunch Marxist and a development, but he was also absolutely crackers. Like, he was just as crazy.
We talked about it before, though. If you're a genius, you're borderline crazy. You have to be borderline crazy.
This guy would write. He'd have an issue. He was in exile all the time because he's always scared for his life.
I wrote the ex. We can talk about them after. Yeah,
he was always in exile because he was always scared for his life. Quite rightly so, because everyone wanted to kill him.
Nice.
So I will get to it. It is when we talk about 1917. It's really important. He would come back from exile and write a book on the train.
Wow.
And then get back to Russia, and he'd print. He'd get copies of the book, and that'd be the book that'd start the next revolution.
I see.
Wow. Like this guy, and he had longer, bigger works. He kind of fancied himself, in my opinion, like as a Marx, like as a Karl Marx.
Yeah.
Like Communist Manifesto. Good read, actually. I'm now on a CIA watch list for saying that.
But we can cut it out if you want.
Yeah. Fuck it, leave it in.
We'll put another book in its title, like Harried Henry or something.
Captain Underpants.
Underpants.
Yeah. Great book.
Great book. Good read.
Good read.
Recommend that.
Yeah. So he was. He fancied a bit of Marx as a writer. And I've never read any Lenin's. I've read obviously the excerpts that are relevant when I was studying, but the excerpts that are relevant when I'm reading. But I haven't read any of his stuff, partly because most of it's in Russian, so
that makes
pretty
sense.
tricky. But there are translated works. There's some I will read them at some point. I don't believe they're a laugh a minute. But I'm sure I'll get through.
Yeah.
But in fact he's just
because it's Captain Underpants.
Yeah, no, that's Captain Underpants. What I'll do is I'll have a Lenin book in the left hand and a Captain Underpants book in the right hand, and whenever it's getting a bit morose, I can look to Captain Underpants and it'll make me laugh.
There you go.
And I'll get like another 10 pages of Lenin done.
Sorted out.
Yeah. So he had the parties split, and the Mensheviks were kind of like a bit more centrist left. like a bit calmer, a bit more measured, and the Bolsheviks were like, fucking burn everything, kill them all, burn all the fucking buildings, burn them in the buildings, chop the heads off.
Yeah.
They're all that real serious shit.
Great people.
Yeah.
Are you sold on that, Charlie?
Oh yeah. So I'm into that.
So hence that's why they obviously were the minority, because a lot of the people were like, fucking hell, I just came for like a work meeting. I heard there was tea. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you got
Like, I thought
Hold on a second.
I thought this was a union meeting. Where's the biscuits?
Yeah. Instead, you got a Molotov cocktail.
Yeah, it's just guns and knives. Like, what the fuck? So obviously, yeah, that also all these mass strikes. That's where you start to see these groups come. Those kind of groups, especially, come more to the surface because there are more people that are unhappy, and there are more people who are finding other people who are unhappy, and all these groups are starting to come together.
Yeah.
So there was also, we'll do 1905, and then if you want, we'll take a little break, and then we'll
a little break
we'll
to gather ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
1905, you even started seeing military revolts. I'm sure there was a film about this. There was a ship called Potemkin, which was mutinied by the I suppose you call I'm not really naval, but the
seaways.
They're basically the normal seamen. And they mutinied against the lieutenants. Potemkin's Potemkin's really interesting actually. When it was a mad. It's during the Russo-Japanese War, and it started supposedly. They had loads of and again, it's all these like basic things. It started over food. They were out.
Me crackers.
Simple shit.
Who's had me Pringles?
It wasn't political at all. It was just like they were out for a sea for longer than they should have been, and they didn't have the money. They didn't allocate the money to buy food, so they were eating rotten food, and they were eating very little of it, and they were all going a bit fucking nutty on it, and obviously you won't be very happy about that.
Yeah, it makes sense, that, doesn't it, really?
Yeah. So they were out doing manoeuvres. One of the seamen says to his lieutenant, I ain't fucking eating that. You fucking eat it.
Fuck off, you eat it.
Fucking rancid.
You do it first, and I'll do it second.
Yeah, mate, you have a bit. Yeah. And then there's maggots coming out of it. I ain't fucking going near it.
Shit.
The lieutenant supposedly threatened to shoot him and said, I'm going to fucking shoot you if you don't eat that food. And he went so far as to get someone to bring a tarp and drape it on the floor, getting him to stand on it, and said, fucking eat it. I'm going to shoot you, because he brought the tarp out so he wouldn't mess the console up on the boat.
Oh my God.
He was like crackers, this lieutenant. So they saw, a couple of the seamen saw this and were like, fuck this. Yeah, so ran up on him, got him, killed 7 of the 8 commanding officers on the ship.
Until one of them
and they just took one of them hostage.
I was going to say, what happened to the one of them?
Yeah,
I'm with you.
I don't even like these guys. So like, that was like, it was getting quite, but it was getting so bad as like the military was like revolting against itself. So it got real heavy. Also, interestingly, that was like 1905. It was like a mass mutiny. They killed like 7 officers on board. A couple of the other people got shot. So it was like mutiny. It was like a mad thing to see. They kept using the ship. They still used the ship for years.
Not going to waste
until like 1923 or something. Like they used the ship for years. So they were like, it's a fucking good ship.
Imagine imagine you're like a navyman, you get sent like working on that ship.
Yeah.
It's the ship that was.
It was like the ship. It was like the ship that started a revolution, which is it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
And also, typically British, we sunk it.
Did you?
Because we had it, I think that's how it ended in like 2026 or something. We had it, and then we were like, oh, it's
sorry about that. Sorry about that.
It's full of holes. So yeah, we fucking sunk it. Yeah, sorry, guys. So so it was getting real bad. It was getting real bad.
Situation is not good.
Yeah. So we can, if you want, we can take a short
let's
break.
take a short break.
Come back.
This was brought to you by Merdley Productions.